Alright, well, welcome to this kind of early test of SpeedPaint reactivation. So our topic today is all about SpeedPaint reactivation, and I've put together a simple test that I think is going to show us a little bit of information on this SpeedPaint reactivation. And so what we have here is a couple of things. Number one, with the shipping delays, the lightest color of SpeedPaint I have is Pallid Bone. That's not real light, but we're going to make it work. The other thing we have is some Army Painter Matte White. Just the whitest paint that Army Painter makes. We've got a little swatch stick here. I'll show you what that's for in just a moment. We'll do a little bit of a speed paint test. And then here on our palette we have green, orange, and blue. Those are the speed paint colors. Orc Skin, High Lord Blue, and then Fire Giant Orange. And so those are speed paints that are dried on this kind of like porcelain tile. So we're going to look at this just a little bit. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my speed paint, my Pallid Bone speed paint. I'm going to shake it up real good. Love those preloaded mixing balls. And I'm going to put a good amount of this on the palette because that's what we're working with today. And you see, it's not as light as I want it to be. But it's going to have to do for our tests, unless maybe... See, I don't even think Crusader Skin is lighter. But let's shake that up and put some of that on the palette too. We'll just make this a real good test as best as we can. Yeah, it's a little lighter. But again, you know, all the speed paints, they have to be dark so that when they're thin, they're transparent enough. Okay, we'll put those in the order they are on the palette, and we're going to try this. So our first test here is we have this swatch stick. So you see the swatch stick, it has speed paint. It's got the green speed paint on it, and then it has a section of white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a silver Sharpie marker, which, by the way, if you don't have silver Sharpies for your hobby, I recommend them because you can write on the bottom of black bases with them without, with being able to see them, with being able to see them, without them just kind of blending into the black base. So you might have noticed in our other videos, if you've seen some of the other videos of the channel, I make notes on the bottom of my bases using that silver Sharpie. So I just marked that real quick, kind of where the green just barely kind of is there. And what we're going to do, testing the reactivation here, is I'm going to take some of this Pallid Bone speed paint, and I'm going to paint on top of this green and then kind of bring it down as if like I'm painting this. Like, oh, we're going to paint some, this green, and then I'm going to bring it down into the white, and we're going to paint some more on the green, and oops, I'm bringing it down to the white. Because if reactivation's a problem, what it's going to do is it's going to get that green into that brown, and then it's going to bring it down. Come on, reactivate. It's like I'm trying to reactivate you. So, I'm seeing a little bit of, maybe this is a little greener than, here I'm maybe contaminating my pool there on the thing, but we'll have to watch for that. Here, I'll just kind of smoosh this around nice and good. Smush, 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 smush. And then we'll put it down here. Is that green coming through? Is that brown just a little bit green? It's not really running quite like maybe the speed paint reactivation doomsayers say it's going to. Come on, reactivate and spread. It's really not spreading. Now, maybe my pool is contaminated here, but I'm going to take a little bit of this. I'm going to put it on this palette. That looks maybe a little green. Maybe a little bit of green. We'll get a close-up of that here in a minute. So that first test, maybe I'll leave it here and we'll come back to this one. We'll see if we can get it to reactivate. That first test is showing that this doesn't reactivate nearly as badly as I've heard from some folks. At least it's not doing it for me. Let me grab a clean brush here. We'll grab some out of the maybe not contaminated end and we'll put it next to it here. And we'll see if we see a difference in those two colors. I do see a slight difference actually already. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. I'll put it up closer here in just a moment. Alright, I am going to rinse out that other brush just because I'm not going to be using it a lot. This is not one of my fancy Army Painter brushes. This is just a craft store brush here. So next thing I wanted to do is kind of take some of this, maybe it's already contaminated paint, we're going to smoosh it around on the orange. Is that, you know, turning orange? Is there, you know, an orange tinge to it? I don't know if you'd be able to see the orange too much, so I'm going to actually rinse out my brush. And we're going to grab some of that. We're going to try the blue. I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it on the blue here. Oh, that blue, look at that. Okay, so that blue, let me get this up in the camera so you can see this. This blue is absolutely reactivating. So if I grab some of this, this is going to be completely contaminated now. You see on that blue? See, it's just taking it right off there and it's just smearing it right in. So there you go. So maybe that orc skin, maybe that green, you know, just isn't, well, let's try it here. Yeah, see, that green just maybe isn't, oh, there it goes. There it goes. So on the porcelain tile, we are absolutely reactivating that, that paint. I'm going to rinse out my brush. We're going to try to see if we can get it to reactivate on the swatch stick here. Because, like, that is actually, like, coming off of the porcelain. I'm going to make a new pool of it over here. Uncontaminated. Haha. We're going to see if we can get it to do it on the swatch stick. But it's absolutely taking it off the tile. Now, the tile is a little bit of different porosity of surface. But are we able to get it on this here? Maybe we are. So if you look at that, I think it's kind of bringing the paint off a little bit because it's not as bad. So it is kind of reactivating, but we're having to really kind of try it on here. And we'll have to definitely try all the colors, but I just want to do the green because I thought it'd show up the best, but it turns out maybe this blue is showing up the best. So that's one test, right? And so let's kind of look at results of this one test and then we'll move on to the next test. So if you take SpeedPaint and you put it over other SpeedPaint, does it reactivate? And the answer is on porcelain, absolutely. Here, I'm going to dab this off. You see it did reactivate that color from the swatch stick a little bit. It didn't necessarily spread, but it's definitely coming off. So that's kind of an interesting thing. But we really had to kind of scrub at it. So is reactivation a problem? I don't know if that's going to pose us actually too many problems. Oh, you tell me. It's definitely reactivating, but I'm thinking maybe it's not causing much of a problem. Okay, got the matte white now. What I want to do with this white is I want to test this. I want to get some on here. I'm going to put some on this palette here, just a glob of the white. And I want to test this. Does this paint, the normal Army Painter acrylics, does it reactivate the SpeedPaint, or does it just have poor coverage over? So in an earlier video, you can go back and watch this one, I touch up over the some of the green that got into an area that I didn't want green, and it didn't cover over real well, and the thought was, well, is that reactivation or not? So I'm going to take a little bit of this nice clean white, and get a good amount of that on my brush, and I'm going to stick it on here and I'm going to kind of squish it around. We're going to see, like, is that reactivating? Now we can see, you know, let me just grab some more of this white here. Here's me trying to paint over the green, not really trying to smush it around. You know, you notice, we'll pull up the tile here, you know, coverage-wise, it's going to need a couple coats. But up in here, as I'm smushing it around, you can actually kind of see the green up in this area where there wasn't any green. You see that? Like the green paint is getting a little bit into the white. And so if you go on and you smush, you know, into your stuff, yeah. But then also look at that at the bottom there. I think the paint is reactivating and kind of seeping in. And so we do see a little bit of reactivation on the attempted coverage here. So what that means is, oh, and here I've got my My speed paint's all running down. Whatever. We'll clean off this tile. It was a good experiment, right? But what we're seeing here is if you're painting over, it does reactivate a little bit. It does reactivate a little bit, and it's going to be hard to cover over because that is seeping up kind of through. Oh yeah, that's kind of seeping up through. So, what do you do? The answer was on these models, a couple of coats, letting it dry in between. I was able to get the green off, like this brown leather strap. Go and look at the past videos and you'll see I got a good bit of green on that brown leather strap, and now it's not really causing an issue. And so it's a couple of coats letting it dry in between might be the answer to that. But as far as does speed paint reactivate? Yes. Speed paint over speed paint, I'm going to say verdict is it's not a big enough issue to cause problems for most people. I don't think it'll cause any problems for me. The nice thing here is it's not flaking off like it did on the porcelain, so you're not going to get like weird flakes of paint. But if you keep mushing it over and keep swirling it around, yeah, it's going to cause you problems. I think the big problem we're having here is this. That is, when you try to touch up your oopsies, you're going to have problems with the speed paint seeping into that. Because again, the top here, we swirled that around and it mixed, but the bottom we just kind of lightly brushed it over, and all that mixing, you really see that in there. All that mixing is happening on its own. It's kind of seeping up through the paint. So there you go. I'm not going to call this definitive. I'm going to call this kind of early hypothesis exploration, right? Does speed paint reactivate? Yes. To what extent? I think we need further testing. Is it going to affect speed paint over speed paint or next to speed paint? Because I don't think you'd ever actually put speed paint over speed paint. Prove me wrong. Tell me how that's worked out for you. But I think speed paint next to speed paint, yes, we will be doing that. And just be careful and it should be just fine. But coverage over speed paint, those touch-ups, we're going to have problems. And so we need to figure out how to do that effectively. And I don't think we know the answer to that yet. Got some matte varnish and stuff on the way, so let's try that out. That'll be in a future video when I get those products in, hopefully mid-April. Alright, thanks for watching. A little bit of a longer one today, but I hope it was helpful and worth it for you. Let me know when I get the rest of the materials in what we should try next with these speed paints as far as reactivation goes. I've got a list of stuff, but I'm always looking for more ideas. Alright, thanks for watching, and take care.